Hello my friends, my name is Ryan Freeman. Thank you for coming to my channel. Please give me a thumbs up. I teach at a public school. It is a junior high school / senior high school combined in Kaohsiung, Taiwan. I guess what I want to talk about is energy, the dynamics of energy in the classroom, as well as the energy of your co-teacher and yourself as the foreign English teacher. I just had a class, first period of the grade 3 students who don't really take school that seriously. A lot of them are working part-time jobs, maybe late into the night at McDonald's or some other place. And so I went in first period, so 8 o'clock, the class starts. I show up at 8:04. And almost no one's in my class. I have about 8 out of 30 students present, and one of them sleeping. Several of them are eating breakfast. And you know, I had a lesson that was planned for at least about 20 people, so impossible to execute. So I go up to the co-teacher and I say, "Where is everyone?" And she's like, she's, I don't know, a little nervous, and she's like, "Well, they're busy, so just chill out. You can wait another 5 or 10 minutes." So it's like, okay, we're gonna start class 15 minutes late. Let's see who shows up. And I was a little disappointed because I had this lesson planned and I don't have students to really carry it out. Now, part of this is my fault. Something I have learned over the past year and a half that I've been working in Taiwan, and something that may be applicable worldwide in public schools, but definitely is true for the public schools in Taiwan. And I think particularly for the grade 3 students of senior high, who are, a lot of them, most of them are 18 years old by this time. And they actually have no more real academics to accomplish, largely because they've completed their college entrance examination. So the rest of the semester, which is only until the end of May, it's not that important. So a lot of students will not show up during first period, or they will show up very late. This is not my first class with them. This is not my first rodeo teaching first period classes. So I should have factored that in better. But that being said, I did factor it in slightly. I just wasn't prepared for such a small turnout when I arrived there. So this is the first thing that you should know, is that your first period, and this is not just for grade 3 students, this goes across the board, there seems to be more permissiveness for tardiness in the Taiwanese public schools. When I was in high school, and I don't know how the US high schools are today, but when I was in high school, you would be stopped by the security, sometimes police, at the entrance of the high school if you were late, and there were slightly, not severe repercussions, but unless you had a note, you might be in trouble. Here, I mean, I've seen students hop the fence. I've seen students just casually walk in. No one is really in a hurry during first period. Teachers included. Some of us, I mean, we just arrived to the office at 8 o'clock, and our class is at 8 o'clock. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, don't have high expectations for, first of all, having a lot of students in your first period, or having all of them. Expect them to be late, and also the energy of first period. First period, a lot of them are very sleepy. Taiwanese students, much more than American students, spend a lot more time at school. They go from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. roughly. And then after that, they go to cram schools, which are private schools that their parents want them to go so that they can get higher test scores or improve various subjects. And so a lot of them are exhausted, and they're not getting enough sleep at night. A lot of my students tell me they go to bed at 12 or 1 and wake up at 6:30. So a lot of them are operating on about 6 hours of sleep, but some of them less, and maybe some more. But by and large, they're very tired. And so your first period, not only are you going to have less students than normal in the class, you're going to have a lot of students showing up late, and the students that are there many of them will be tired. So I'm a high energy teacher, and I got a good sleep last night because I want to come in and kick butt and get everyone riled up. That's my style. And it wasn't quite the right match of my plans and my hopes with the situation. But what you do need to do is always be able to adapt yourself to the class. And then also, hopefully, that class will adapt to you, this sort of reciprocity in meeting in the middle between teacher and students. So I was able to get the students that were there to come up and play a little game. They were very reluctant at first. It's first period, they're tired, they just want to sit at their desk. They don't want to think much, they don't want to do much, but I got them up and I could see their begrudging looks in their faces, some of them almost hostile, but they came up, and after a few minutes of warming up, they ended up smiling and being excited and coming to match my energy. So I'm trying to lift their energy up, and suddenly we're playing this game called Big Booty. I will put a link to where you can find that game on the Improv Encyclopedia down below in the comments. Big Booty is a number calling game. It's a very fun game. The only English you're really using is numbers, and then also "aw shit" when you make a mistake, and big booty, which means big ass, obviously. It's a fun game. And we played it a little longer than I would normally do it because it took them a while to really get into it, but they were all happy. Now, once we had played it for a while, I wanted to switch to another game, and once again, they were reluctant to change the game. But once I got them into a circle to play another game, they started having a lot of fun. So, first period's a challenge. You're working with less students coming in late, and students who really are not in the mood for English. Just 2 days ago on Wednesday, today's Friday, on Wednesday I had a first period grade 2, so these are the 11th graders. So that's the bell. It is time for class, but I don't have a class right now. I have office hours, so I'm making this video for you, but I'll continue talking as soon as this bell is finished. Take a sip of coffee. You ask, why is Teacher Ryan always so energized? Because he makes fantastic coffee. Okay, so I'm teaching period 1, so the very first period, 8 o'clock of the second grade senior high, which is the equivalent of 11th graders in America. So these kids are 17-ish, 16, 17-ish, and they were like zombies. They were just absolutely like zombies. They've always been somewhat like that. I've taught them last semester, and I'm always happy when I'm able to get them all active, all taking part. But it was rough go. It was really, I would say it's a lot more difficult to do some lessons during first period. And so just don't get your hopes too high if you have a first period class. Now, I also say that is true for the class right after lunch, because what happens is these kids, their energy ramps up to the day, then they have lunchtime, and then they eat a big meal, and some of them have chores and jobs, and then they take a nap. And so a lot of them, just like me, it's hard just to wake up from a nap and start doing things. Like you still have sleep inertia, or you have brain fog, or you're groggy, or you're grumpy. So you will have some problems in the period right after lunch. Every period of the day has its own challenges, but there's also the dynamics of the class itself. What I'm talking about is the makeup of the students in that class. If you have a class that is mostly girls with just a few boys, it depends who those boys are. I have some classes where it is about 90% girls, 10% boys, but those boys have so much energy that there still is a lot of energy. But what I found is that when you have a vast majority of girls, those classes do tend to be a lot calmer than the classes where there's a lot of boys. A lot of boys, and particularly if you have very extroverted boys or naughty boys, the energy can just go really, really, really high. Now that could be a good thing or a bad thing. If you're trying to really buckle down and do sentence patterns out of a book, it's not an easy thing. But if you're playing games, like I tend to do, those high energy classes are actually the most fun. So, so you have the time of the day, then you have the class dynamics. You know, just like at a party, you throw in one or two really funny people, suddenly the energy of the party is through the roof, right? You have a bunch of dull people and the party is boring as hell. So what students are in those classes makes a huge difference. And then your co-teacher. I want to talk about the dynamics of the co-teacher. So yesterday I had a class. They are grade 1 of senior high, so that would be the equivalent of 10th graders in America, about 16 years old. And a lot of these students, I wouldn't necessarily say they're shy, but this entire class is so reserved, so quiet. It's not about the time of the day. It's like the period before lunch, which should be, they're really wide awake and energized, and they are all awake. But it's because the co-teacher is their homeroom teacher. So if, I'm not sure what American schools are like today. I don't remember there being homeroom teachers in high school, but in junior high we had them. The homeroom teacher is a very important teacher and position at junior high schools and high schools in Taiwan. They have a lot more responsibility. They are the ones who primarily talk to the parents about problems with the students. They do most of the discipline. So for example, if I had a huge issue with a student in my class, I probably wouldn't end up disciplining them. I would go talk to their homeroom teacher to discipline them. So the students have a certain relationship with their homeroom teacher. Perhaps they love their homeroom teacher in some cases. Sometimes they don't like them, but they do have a little bit of respect and fear for them because the homeroom teacher is a very important person in their life. They're the ones who are going to talk to their parents and perhaps punish them. So what will happen is when you teach English in a public school, in middle school or high school, here you will have a co-teacher. Now, that co-teacher is not likely to be their homeroom teacher all the time. Most of the time it's not. And so the students are free and at liberty and they're having fun. That's just their English teacher. But sometimes their English teacher, their local English teacher, is also their homeroom teacher. And I've experienced this at my last school, at the middle school I worked in Taiwan, and here in Kaohsiung, with this class I'm telling you about yesterday, with this grade 1 senior high, these 16-year-olds, their homeroom teacher is their English teacher, and the class is very subdued. Very subdued. There's a benefit to that. The benefit is they are all following along in the book. They are all not going to misbehave or shout or do something inappropriate, like what happens in some of my other classes. But the bad thing is, when you're trying to make some laughs and create a certain vibe, and you're trying to paddle up a river because they are not able to be themselves. They're not able to really let go. And the co-teachers, whether or not they're the homeroom teacher or not, their personality is important as well. Like, do they have a certain way about them? What's their relationship with the students? Because some co-teachers and students are more like friends. Some co-teachers, some of your local English teachers and the students, they're almost like friends. Still teachers, but like friends. And some are more like a motherly type, you know? So that relationship will also change how the students act in class. Now, you yourself, I notice on the days where I have very little sleep, maybe I slept bad, who knows for what reason, maybe I did jujitsu and then I stayed up late and I ate something and it was not a good night, and then the next day my energy is pretty low. Sometimes those are great classes. Sometimes I actually have fantastic classes when I'm low on energy. And then some days like today, I just have a lot of energy because I slept really well last night. And so my energy, whether it's really low or really high, will change the way that I interact with the students in some very subtle but noticeable. I guess subtle is opposite of noticeable. But so what I should say is some subtle but relatively significant ways. Okay, that's what I want to talk about. The energy dynamics of the class. The time of the day, right? First period and after lunch, those are tough periods. And then also the very last period, right? Because everyone's brain's a bit fried from so many classes. I know my brain is a bit fried in the very last period of the day. The makeup of your class, you know, is it full of students who are extroverted? Is it full of girls? Is it full of boys? A lot of boys could mean a lot of trouble, but a lot of energy. A lot of shy girls can really dampen, or boys. There's a lot of students worldwide who are shy, but I think in Taiwan there's a lot of students who just hide behind the mask and they are very introverted. And so if you have a lot of those, it is difficult to really get things going. And then the co-teacher, right? If they are the homeroom teacher, that local English teacher, just don't expect those students to really be themselves. Now, that may not be 100% true. There may be exceptions, but from my experience and from even local teachers that I've talked to, that is a general rule, as well as the co-teacher themselves. You know, if they're younger and more fun, the students might be able to open up themselves. And then you yourself, what's going on in your life? Are you happy? Are you full of energy? And then, of course, the activity, you know. So there's all of these various factors of energy at play, and I feel that the best class is when somehow, despite the differences of my energy, your energy, the time of the day, the lesson, it all comes together and explodes. Doesn't explode all the time, but turns into an amazing class. That's what I wanted to say. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Ryan Freeman. If you have any questions, put it down below. Give me a thumbs up. I will see you next time. Bye-bye.